Hey everybody, the Super Vader 400 here, back for another retro review, and this time this is another rare review. This is my review of the Super Nintendo version of Killer Instinct. I recently discovered this game on PlayRetroGames.com. I think that's what it's called. And after seeing games from other platforms such as the arcade system, the Sega 3X, the 32X, and the Sega CD. The Sega CD. After seeing other games on those platforms such as the X-Men versus Street Fighter, the the early Marvel versus Capcom games such as X-Men versus Street Fighter and Marvel Superheroes versus Capcom, and I think the third one, Marvel Superheroes versus Capcom, and of course other games like Street Fighter Alpha, and from the Sega CD, the Mortal Kombat 1 arcade port on the Sega CD, and the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade port on the Sega 3X2, and of course on the Sega CD, Eternal Champions Challenge from the Dark Side. So since I saw they had high quality games such as that, I typed in the search bar to see if they had Killer Instinct. And much to my surprise, well, they didn't have the arcade version, but they did have the Super Nintendo version, which is the first version of Killer Instinct. Which is first version of Killer Instinct I've actually played, and and it was awesome going back to 1995 and 96 and reliving the memories of playing this awesome game right here. Come to think of it, I've been playing this game so much that I never got a chance. I haven't got a chance to review it. I've been trying to review this game for like almost a week now. But I've just been playing, and like I said, this video game is awesome. The in the Before I start, I'm going to give my history of the Killer Instinct franchise. I've been a huge fan of Killer Instinct since 1995. Two of my friends had the game. I've never owned a Super Nintendo. I was always a Sega guy, and right around the time I decided to upgrade to the Super Nintendo was discontinued. The Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, and the Sega Saturn were discontinued, and I was forced to upgrade to the PlayStation. But this game right here, and same with the N64, when I finally got around to having an N64, well, Killer Instinct Gold was like that's probably the best fighting game on the Super Nintendo on the N64 besides the wrestling games and Mortal Kombat 4 and Trilogy. This was probably the best fighting game. I never saw the game during the short time I had a Nintendo 64, and by the time the game was affordable, the N64 was gone. So I never really get a chance to play this game again. But I've been trying to play this game for like ever, and I finally got a chance to. So like I said, I've been playing this game since '95. This game alone right here was one of the main reasons to own a Super Nintendo and an N64 console. This game and the follow up to this game, Killer Instinct Gold, made the reasons to own a Super Nintendo. I was like I said, I was a Sega guy, but I also played it, wanted a Super Super Nintendo, and and ever since I first played this game, I've been a huge fan of large and colorful cast of characters. For its large and colorful cast of characters, 3D graphics, intense gameplay, and in-depth fighting engine. I'm going to talk more about, and finally story. I'm going to talk about the story, characters, gameplay, gameplay, and everything else in the webcam portion of this review. All right, dugout. Hey everybody, Super Vader 400 here. This is the webcam portion of my Super Nintendo Killer Instinct Super Nintendo version review. Like I said in my narration review, I'm going to start off with I'm going to talk more about the story, characters, and of course the gameplay. The story is according to Wikipedia is that a mega there's a mega corporation called Ultratech who are sponsoring a fighting tournament called Killer Instinct to test the abilities of some of their experiments. Fighters some of the fighters are regular participants and the other ones are e- genetic genetic experiments. Genetic experiments. Like I said, each character, like just like in every other fighting game, each character has his or her own reasons for entering the tournament. But the tournament mostly centers around Jago, Orchid, TJ Combo, and Chief Thunder. When I think the main characters of Killer Instinct, these are the four characters who immediately come to mind. Come to mind. Oh yeah, and yeah. These are the four characters who immediately come to mind. So pretty much the video game series mostly centers around them, with Jago, of course, being the lead character, being Jago and probably Orchid being the lead characters of Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct. That's the story of the first version of Killer Instinct one. Then of course the characters. Like I said in my narration portion of this review, I I've always been a huge fan of Killer Instinct for its large and colorful cast of characters. I like all the characters with Jago, TJ Combo, Chief Thunder, Chief Thunder, Glacius, Cinder, and Orchid. Being my favorite gameplay wise. Story wise, I also like Spinal, Sabretooth, Idol, Gorganos, and of course Fulgore, who I'm also a huge fan of. Fulgore, the machine person. Each of these characters are unique. You have Jago, the monk. He is what you get when you he is like and Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat and Ryu together. Like Liu Kang, he's a monk who's it's his destiny. He has this thing called the tiger. He has this thing called the tiger, and it's his destiny to vanquish evil. It's his destiny to compete in a tournament and vanquish evil, just like Liu Kang's destiny from Mortal Kombat. Then of course you got Jago, who I think he was banned from boxing and had his belt taken from him because he used cybernetic implants, something like that. And now he fights in the Ultra Tech tournament to get his belt back. You have Black Orchid, who I think is Jago's long lost twin sister, something like that. And I forget what she entered the tournament to do, but I know she has something to do with Jago, and I know she's the main character. Then of course you got Chief Thunder, who's I forgot what his character does. Then you got Glacius, who was transformed into the character Glacius, and I think he's competing in a tournament to find a cure for his condition. Same with Sabretooth and them. So yeah, like I said, you have Jago, then you have TJ Combo, the boxer, the boxer type character. He's similar to Jax. He's similar to Jax from Mortal Kombat, and Jax's actor John Parrish performed motion capture for TJ Combo. He also reminds me of Jonathan Blade from Eternal Champions, another favorite fighting game of mine. Um, then of course you got Glacius, who is like a big, giant, scary looking ice monster. You got Cinder, who is like he's like the Human Torch on steroids. And then you got Spinal, a human skeleton who I think is a pirate. Then of course, who was in his previous life was a pirate who I think was reanimated by Ultratech. Then of course you got Saberwolf, who is a real life, who is a werewolf, werewolf. Chief Thunder, he's the Indian character. While being the cliched Indian character, I love his character. I love his first character design. I hate it when they changed his character design to in the reboot, but his original character design with the mohawk and the stripe and the stripe pants and the belt buckle, he looks like a 1970s punk rocker, and um um then you got Fulgore, who is like the Predator, who is like the Predator. Then you got Idol, one of the coolest and most underrated bosses ever, who is this two-headed monster, this scary looking two-headed monster, and so like I said, you have a large and colorful cast of characters, and the sequel added even more. So that's pretty much the characters. Then of course, now for the gameplay, love the gameplay of Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct is pretty much a combination of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. Only Killer Instinct places more emphasis on combo. They they have several different combos. If you hit a succession of combos, they call it they call it killer or hyper killer. They call it hyper combo. If you do several combinations, and a signature maneuver, they call it hyper combo. And then of course there's a continuous long range combos and special ending with special maneuver. I think called the ultra combo. And then the announcer comes out of nowhere and says ultra combo. Also, just like Mortal Kombat and just like the Marvel vs. Capcom series and the Street Fighter Alpha series, Killer Instinct, they're also known for their over the top announcers. Whenever you hit a combo, they'll say whenever you hit a combo or another move they have called combo breaker. When you interrupt and reverse and break somebody's combo, they say combo breaker. Yeah, combo breaker is what they say. And then of course, when you hit one of the combos, they'll be like hyper combo, killer combo, and yeah, and then of course when the game starts, I love there are three different versions. Of the theme. There are three different versions of the theme. When you're at the title screen, you hear this the iconic intro theme. The do 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 do. That song is awesome. Every time I turn on the game, I always leave it at the start menu. I always leave it at the press start screen or the attract mode for arcade video game fans. I always leave it there to listen to the awesome theme and read the backstory of the Ultra Tech tournament, and of course um, the characters participating in the game, and of course when you get to the start menu, the gameplay modes, you have the normal arcade mode, then there's a versus mode, then there's a multiplayer tournament mode, then there's practice, then there's options. I always go to options, and you can always turn off the timer, always turn on the combo breakers, and you can also affect the difficulty. If you with the use of stars, if you put it down to 1 star, the game and you play the game, you'll finish at Fulgore. If you put it at 2 star and up the difficulty some more, after Fulgore, you'll fight Idol, the two-headed monster, the two-headed monster, um the two-headed monster. So and like I said, so that's the character. The fighting, like I said, in the fighting, each character has their own fighting style. You got Combo, who is like um Combo Kung Fu TJ. I mean Jago Kung Fu TJ Combo boxing. Chief Thunder uses the axes. He can also throw kicks. Orchid uses the sticks and can also turn into some kind of I think he's also a tiger or something like that. Turn to an animal and has a spinning kick maneuver. Has kicks and a spinning kick maneuver similar to Chun Li from Street Fighter. And then you have um then you have Glaciers um who is just a normal brawler type character where he can use ice. That he can use, not only does he have the power of ice, he can throw boulders. He can throw boulder fist and ice spears and use his punches like a sword, like an ice sword or something like that. His hands like an ice sword. You have Cinder, of course, a normal brawler type character, but he can do fireballs. He can do fireballs. Full Gore has the disc. Spinal has a sword. Um, um, Sabretooth is just like as a fighting style is just like Full Gore, except he uses his claws. He uses his claws. He uses his claws, whereas Full Gore has the energy disc. Has the disc just like Blade, just like Blade from the Marvel movies, just like Blade. He has the little disc that he used to cut people. Um, Going back to Jago, he can also use his sword, which he has in his back, and throw Hadoukens called Endokins, just like Ryu, and also has his own Shoryuken or Dragon Punch. Has his own Shoryuken or Dragon Punch, which you can do with combos. Which you can set it up with punches, and then he'll do a combo. He'll do a punch combo. Then of course you have those are the gameplay maneuvers. Another thing I've loved about Killer Instinct is the fatalities. And I love the fatalities in this game much more than I do in Mortal Kombat, because the fatalities in this game they're much more, while being much more comical, due to the fact that this is a 3D like fighting game, the fatalities in this game look a little bit more realistic. Whereas in Mortal Kombat, most of the fatalities, with the exception of the pit fatalities look 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 totally cartoonish and goofy today. But the fatalities in this game, while cartoonish, there's one where someone gets knocked off a cliff. There's my favorite fatality from Killer Instinct is when you're fighting on any type of cliff level, any type of high place, and at the end, when it's time to finish your opponent, you can knock him off of that place. You can knock him off of that place, and they'll fall onto a car or onto a hard place, or they'll fall on the ground and make an imprint, just like a Road Runner, just like a Wile E. Coyote and Road Runner, Road Runner cartoon. You know how scary it was when I first played Killer Instinct, and I was at Cinder Stage, and Cinder Stage is the top of a complex. Cinder Stage and Orchid Stages. Both of these stages, Orchid Stage, which is the Killer Instinct, which is Orchid Stage, which is right next to the Killer Instinct building. Building is the top of the stage. When it's over, you get to knock the character off, and you see this really cool, funny looking animation of the character falling onto a car or onto whatever, falling to the ground. It is just scary and awesome at the same time. But see, I love the fatalities. You could also have humiliation when you make them dance, but you have to keep all your energy. And of course, the version I just played, the SNES version. Wow, for the most part, being a faithful port of the arcade version, the sound and music is not as good as the arcade version. because the sound is not as good as the arcade version. And of course, during the versus, during the versus part of the screen before the fight, and the victory screen during the versus part of the screen, the characters they pose when it's over. They pose when it's over. In the what you call it, they just show images. They just show images of the winner, and the versus screen just shows images of the two combatants who are about to fight, who are about to fight. Whereas the arcade version showed them actually posing before and after the fight, before and after the fight, before and after the fight. But one thing that I was amazed of was that, see, back in '95, I was still playing games like the Sega, the original Nintendo, and the Super Nintendo, and all these games had like cartoonish graphics. The only games that had almost like 3D graphics were games that were in the arcade. I was surprised back then, and still amazed to this day, that they managed to get a full length 3D game, Killer Instinct, a 3D game, a 3D game to play on the Super Nintendo. To play on the Super Nintendo. They Rare developed this awesome software called Ultra 64, which allowed games like this, and of course the Donkey Kong Country, another childhood favorite game of mine, to play on the Super Nintendo. But I'm surprised they got a game. They got a 3D like game to play on a Super Nintendo console, a console mostly known for 2D video games. I mean, even I think Sega added the Sega 3X 32X, the Sega 32X piece, and the Sega CD piece, so they could play 3D length motion capture games too. But I remember how big that was, and how amazed I was when I saw this back in 1995. Back in 1995. But so yeah, this has been my rare review of Killer Instinct. I am so happy I got to play this game again. I'm I'm probably gonna do this review again, review this review over again, because it's so much fun playing this game, and it was a lot of fun talking. It was a lot of fun talking about it. All right, Dugout.